Hi. 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 I'm LGO, and today we'll be making a dress inspired by the novels and Netflix series Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. You don't have to have read the novels or seen the series to enjoy this video, but I highly recommend that you do, as they have wonderful writing, drawing, acting, and everything in between. The gown we'll be making today is inspired by ball gowns of the 1850s. It'll feature patterns designed by me, inspired by Alice Oseman's drawings. I hope you enjoy this video, and I think it's time to start for a proper, full-on ball gown.
Alright, let's talk design. An 1850s tiered style ball gown. I drew it with 3 tiers but ended up only making 2, but I think it turned out pretty good. Then flowers and leaves that are 3-dimensional and 2-dimensional. I want flowers around the neck and leaves around the hems. The rest of the flowers and leaves will be hand-painted designs on top of the fabric, and then I want to make a fan that has the iconic high on it. The hand-painted designs will also feature portraits of the characters, and I'll go a little more into depth on that as I am going through the design process on the digital art platform.
Can I 8 yards of cotton meats?
A teeny tiny ironing board!
Underwear has to be discussed before we can put anything else on my body. I will be wearing up top a chemise and my mid-1800 corset, but that's not my problem. This should really have a cage crinoline because of how big I wanted it, but I don't have one of those. I have 2 fluffy petticoats and one of my old ball gown skirts. So we're gonna see if I can make this work. If not, I have one backup plan. I feel like a marshmallow, oh my god. The dude to fix the fire alarm is here. I'm hiding in my closet because the guy to fix the fire alarm is here. I actually really like the shape this gives, and I don't have to build an entire cage crinoline. So I think we're gonna stick with just the doubled up petticoats. Okay, so the pattern I'm using for this bodice is the same one I used for this one. And this one goes all the way off the shoulder, which was really great for the dress it was for. But I want it on the shoulder, so I'm just gonna change this angle when I cut it, but everything for the middle and for the back is gonna stay the same.
Ah yes, my professional Ziploc bag filled drawer pattern. Because I'm not trying to be entirely historically accurate, and I am trying to be budget friendly with this project, my lining is going to consist of a reversed dress shirt that I'll be cutting up to match the pattern that I'm using for the bodice. This is that bodice pattern. After cutting it out, I start sewing it up down the center seams, darts side seams, side back seams, leaving the back seam open. After that, I pin it to my lining fabric.
Okay, I have my outer layer and my inner layer, and they're pinned together on the mannequin, and I've pinned all along the edge where the 2 layers meet, and I'm going to take it off the mannequin and run it under my sewing machine all along the edge so they don't shift against each other anymore. Once I do that, we're gonna get to binding the edges, and then we can decorate the bodice. Finishing the buttons is gonna be really weird, but I think I might have a solution for that, because I'm thinking of just putting a decorative piece here, and I can just hide my mistakes instead of actually dealing with them. And if that is not college, I don't know what is. So far as the bodice goes, I have the lining layer and the top layer both stitched together now, and I stitched them all around the edge like this, and what I'm doing now is I'm clipping very close to my seam, and after clipping, I'm going to be taking hem tape, and I will be putting hem tape, it's hard to do this with one hand, I will be putting hem tape all around the bottom of it to create a clean edge.
Oh, I almost forgot. I also did a little bit of adjustment on the arms because they were riding up really high. So I brought those down an inch and then put them back into the armhole. And I'm also going to be hem taping this and the top of the bodice because I made it a little too high.
I've got most of the bodice put together. What I need to do now is I'm putting a big collar on it. This lighting is up. I'm sorry. Doing the white fabric is really hard because it's so bright and dark. But basically, this ruffled collar here, I need to figure out the measurement for that. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut out a really, really long rectangle to use as my ruffle collar.
Okay, I forgot to film a lot of this process, but what I did was I cut out a long rectangle, 7 inches wide, and then I put a hem on it all along the bottom and along the two edges. These two edges match up center back to the dress, and then I gathered the top and I pinned it to the mannequin just all along the neckline. And so this is the ruffle for the top. The next step for the top is to attach the ruffle and then clean up the edges. After that, the top is finished and only needs to have all the flowers put on, but that will be much later. Okay, so first off, do you like my t-shirt? It says procrastinators, leaders of tomorrow. I have 6 hours until I have to leave for a rehearsal tonight. And I'm realizing that a lot of this video is going to be time lapses with voiceovers, so I figured I'd do a check-in face-to-face just of where we are right now. As far as the bodice goes, it is almost done. All it needs is for me to bind the top edge to where there's no raw edges sticking out. It's kind of an extra step. I technically could leave the raw edges since they're all on the selvage and it shouldn't unravel. But I just want to make it look as clean as possible. So I'm going to bind the top edge, add a little hook and loop closure to the center top of the back because it just isn't closing right. So I want to make sure that does that. Yada yada yada, move on to the skirt already.
Okay, so I have my dress form, I have all her petticoats on. One of them is going to go on the bottom half of the skirt, one of them is going to go on the top half of the skirt. And so in order to make the bottom one the right length it needs to be, I'm going to take a big rectangle of fabric, gather it in to the size of the waist, and then that way I can attach the bottom ruffle onto that piece so that I don't have to make any extra adjustments. And that should be the next step for that.
This was the truly tricky part. When designing the pattern, I decided to do it on my computer. That way I could have the spacing and guidelines correct. And then I also had lots of reference photos for color and themes and, of course, portraits of the characters. So I started out with my grid and I used that to create the pattern for the leaves. The iconic Heartstopper leaves, of course. And then I created a unique frame for each portrait of the characters. Then, from reference photos, I made portraits of said characters and inserted them into the frames. I went back to my reference photos again and decided that for between the portraits, I wanted to include the flowers and umbrellas. So, between each pairing, I added an umbrella raining down flowers between the characters. These pairings include Tao and Elle, Nick and Charlie, Victoria and Nellie, and, of course, Tara and Darcy. Gotta love Tara and Darcy. I think Darcy's my favorite character just because she's so funny. And then, of course, I had to include the lovely Alice Oseman, who you can see over in the corner there. Once I had all these designs laid out, it was time to start painting them. The painting process was probably my favorite part out of all of this. And I gotta be real with you guys, there was a lot of testing involved in this to see how much water, how much paint, how much pen to use on this, just materials was a lot of stuff. But I went ahead and started with the basic shapes and measurements for my grids and plotted out the umbrellas and the frames first, and this is a long shot of just how long these paintings were. Then I used a very, very, very bright light on my computer to show through the fabric, and using a Sharpie I traced out the portraits to later fill in with paint, just to thicken up the lines a little bit and give it that truly cartoonish feel. Then I got started on all the leaf patterns. I went one color at a time, And then I also went in and colored in the umbrellas, and I used a paint pen to really clean up all my lines here.
And then as far as the skirt goes, I have my ruffles hemmed and I've started painting on them. I need to do some details and outlines, and I have a paint pen. I love the sounds that paint pens make. So I have a paint pen that I'm going to be using to do that.
I used the paint pen to outline and add details to the flowers and the leaves that I had already put onto the different rolls of fabric. And this was probably my favorite part of the process, just because it was very, very satisfying just to sit there and draw leaves and flowers for hours on end.
So I decided that Nick, on all of my things, one of my favorite scenes in Heartstopper is where his pen explodes on him, because I use a fountain pen as well, and I've had one explode on me. Mine was black, so it wasn't that, but blue pen. We're just gonna give him some pen explosion action happening here. Okay, new development. I've found out that if I take my ink pen and I dip it in a little bit of water, it creates watercolor effect. And so what I'm doing is I'm just dabbing it on, and it actually looks like I spilled ink on Nick's shirt. So a little dip, and then just a little boop. And it kind of bleeds out from there. And as the water gets out of the pen, the dots get smaller. And then I can also add some darker spots in here. And then I did a little bit up on his collar as well.
I'm going to be making a lot of tiny three-dimensional fabric flowers to put all around the collar. That's going to take a minute, so I might not get around to that today. Maybe later this week.
It was indeed much later that week that I got around to staying up till nearly 3 a.m. to finally get these flowers done. I just went ahead and sloppily drew all of them with paint pens and cleaned them up when I cut them out, making it a much faster process than it was going to be in the first place. So back to the skirt.
So I have sewn these into big circles, a smaller circle and a bigger circle. The smaller circle I'm going to gather around to where it fits at the waist, and then the bigger circle I'm going to gather around to where it fits at the bottom of this base piece. And then I'm going to start attaching it all together. And try and not wrinkle this to hell and back while I'm sewing. Okay, it looks a bit like a hot mess, but I've got some of it gathered and pinned in place, and I'm going to sew this, and if I'm not happy with it by then, I'm going to panic, and then I'm going to calm down and try again. So I put the bottom of the skirt on, and I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. It's a little flat, like it's puffy up here, and it's going to be puffy, but what I'm thinking is I have a big box of tulle. And so I am going to bunch up tulle after I get the top of the skirt on, and if I'm still unhappy with how puffy it is, I'm going to add tulle underneath here to sort of kick out this little bit. So like if you see on the side there, so if it just kicks out a little more, I feel like that would really help the shape. So we're going to put the top of the skirt on, and then the tulle will come after that. While I put the top of the skirt on, I'm also going to go ahead and add the waistband. That way I can try it on myself soon. I'm so excited about how it's looking. Okay, so I really like the way the top of the skirt came out. We've got Nick and Charlie right up front and center here and here, and I'm really happy about that. And then on the bottom half, I like the way it came out, but like I said, I'm still thinking I want to kick it out a little more with some tulle in here. Maybe even another petticoat if I can find one. I might have a friend willing to lend me one, but yeah, so puffier on the skirt. And then after that, I'm going to start attaching, let me see if I can bring this closer. I'm going to start attaching the two-dimensional flowers all around the top here. I'm starting with the yellow, then the blue, then the pink. And I'm just going to kind of attach those willy-nilly up here. And see you once that's done. I have the flowers all attached, and I really like the way they look, but it makes the skirt look less, like they're not the same pieces. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make some leaves in the same style as the flowers and just put a few of them around this hem, just so it kind of fades from the drawn leaves into the cartoon 3D ones. And then after that I attach that, I'm just going to do some finishing work. So I need to clip threads. So here's the to-do list. I also put some tulle in it, so it's more puffy and I'm happy with it. But before the reveal, I need to clip all the threads, attach some leaves, and dang, that's it. All right. Done. This project was really fun. I enjoyed the amount of painting I got to do, along with the amount of sewing I got to do. It's rare that I get to mix the two. And I love the way it fits me. I love the way it twirls. I was worried it wouldn't be poofy enough, and it ended up being perfectly poofy. If I had to change anything, I would probably have chosen a different fabric. This is awful, but I wouldn't have, I made it out of 100% cotton because I love natural fibers, but they wrinkle very easily. So next time I might just have to skip the cotton and go for a poly blend, just because it handles the wear and tear a little easier. Also because when I painted it, I didn't want to iron it too much after painting it for worry that the steam from the iron would bleed the paint. So I wanted to be very careful about that, and I was just worried about it. Also, I would definitely, about the painting, use fabric safe paint. I didn't, just because I was very lazy and I thought, oh, I don't want to go to the store and get fabric medium. I already have all the paint I need. And it worked. I just don't, I can't wash it, which is a little annoying. As far as things that I really liked, oh wait, one more thing I was disappointed about. I didn't end up having time to go to the store this week at all, which is very annoying because I wanted to buy a fan and paint it to go with the dress, and I wasn't able to do that. So that might just be something I end up doing later and taking some photos of, but for now, just is gonna have to not exist. Things I really like, I really like how poofy it came out. I was worried because I switched from 3 to 2 tiers that I wouldn't be able to have it be poofy enough. I really like how all the characters came out. I think it's fun. You have to look a little because of the gathering to see them, but I think that you can still tell. And also my absolute favorite part is all the little leaves and flowers that I ended up putting on. I think they look amazing, and I'm very, very happy with it. And that's everything. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Art by LGO. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, the whole shebang. I have a link tree to my Patreon where you can see behind the scenes photos of upcoming projects. For instance, if you're wondering what that little gem over there on the mannequin is, go to my Patreon to find out. Other than that, please like and subscribe. I will have a new video out soon, hopefully, and goodbye. I heard him come in and I was wearing this, and I was so scared because he mentioned room A, and I was like, oh my god, is he gonna come in my room while I'm dressed like this? Ah! So heavenly... And now I have to actually go work on this project.
I can't stay long, Russ. Nonsense. I'm making pie today.